The Oklahoma Sooners need to land a five-star defensive lineman in this class. And I'm not necessarily saying they need to land Dominick McKinley, but they need to land somebody. And they're in the running for at least 3 five-star defensive linemen, maybe potentially 4. But that's something we're going to talk about and dive into. Before we talk about it, guys, go ahead and hit that like and hit the subscribe button. Jump down in the comments below and let me know what y'all's thoughts are ultimately. How many of the defensive linemen, interior wise, do you think Oklahoma realistically needs to go out here and land in the 2024 recruiting cycle? So we've talked about the names Williams Winery and David Stone so often. So today I want to shift gears and talk about the five-star defensive lineman out of Lafayette, Louisiana, Dominick McKinley. So Dominick McKinley sits at a lot taller than me, 6'5", 290 pounds. And Dominick McKinley is a guy that a lot of people believe around the industry are just now starting to come around the idea that Oklahoma potentially leads there. And listen, I think Oklahoma's been in a good position for Dominick McKinley for a while. If you've watched the show, you think the same. Dominick McKinley has a little over 27 offers from across the land. And most notably, he's got offers from the likes of Alabama, LSU, A&M, Texas, and Ohio State. I mentioned those because those are really the schools that you're primarily in the running for if you're Oklahoma, right? Now, the biggest hurdle if you're Oklahoma is going to be getting over the likes of LSU. And I know some people might jump into the comments and go, nobody's beating LSU for a top defensive lineman in their state if Brian Kelly and Jamar Cain and any of those guys have anything to say about it. And I'm here to tell you differently because Dominick McKinley still has not scheduled an official visit for LSU or Alabama. Right now, it looks like those two are up in the air. Now, could he possibly be waiting to get past the date where he can take more official visits so that he can take 6 instead of 5? Potentially. But the fact that LSU wasn't one of the teams that automatically got an official visit tells me something, right? Now, his official visits have been as follows. He's went to Ohio State on June 2nd. He went to Texas A&M on June 9th, who has been notorious for taking defensive linemen from Oklahoma in terms of DJ Hicks, Lebius Overton, and other guys. So, no, not trying to bring you back any bad memories there, but Texas A&M, that's one you want to keep an eye out for anytime you're in the running for a defensive lineman. Then you have Oklahoma on June 16th, and then you've got Dominick McKinley going to Texas on June 23rd. When you look at that lineup for Dominick McKinley, hey, he's got a lot of elite schools on there. Larry Johnson over at Ohio State, the godfather of defensive line recruiting. You have Texas and Bo Davis, which can't ever count them out. Elijah Robinson in Texas A&M. Look at just everything Elijah Robinson has done. Can we run through Elijah Robinson's recruiting profile and just look at the guys that he has been able to land? Because Elijah Robinson just is that dude. Walter Nolan, a 5-star defensive lineman. David Hicks, the 5-star defensive lineman that Oklahoma felt just so good for last cycle. Lebius Overton. You have DeMarvin Leal, Gabriel Brownlow Dindy. Y'all remember he was an Oklahoma guy as well. Then you have Tamuse Adali, N.I. White. I mean, up and down the board, Elijah Robinson's profile of guys he's been able to land, it just sticks out. But then you've got LSU in the mix. And you've got Jimmy Lindsey, who is their defensive line coach. And listen, he's done some work at South Carolina. He landed Josiah Thompson, an offensive tackle, 4-star guy, Xavier McLeod, a 4-star defensive lineman, Vakari Swain, a 4-star athlete. If you guys remember, that was a guy in Oklahoma that we were looking at in 2022, Jelon Kilgore, Elijah Davis. So yes, you look at it and go, he hasn't landed any 5-stars, but he's done something at an SEC school. And now that he's at LSU, a powerhouse in that state, you would imagine that he would be able to start to try to develop a relationship with Dominick McKinley if that's where he wants to go. But the big thing here is Oklahoma and the Soul Mission, because it seems like that has what's been sticking out for Oklahoma and Todd Bates with Dominick McKinley. And I think that's where Oklahoma can ultimately end up winning this recruitment. So Oklahoma and Dominick McKinley, yes, it would be nice if we can win him. Yes, it would be nice if we can land a David Stone, a Williams Nwaneri, and a Dominick McKinley, but you at least have to win one of these guys. And if you land a David Stone and a Dominick McKinley but miss out on a Williams Nwaneri, you're feeling pretty good. The only thing is, we're going to know exactly how many defensive linemen we're getting in this class by the time Dominick McKinley picks Oklahoma, because Oklahoma is probably going to take, I would think, anywhere between 4 to 5 interior defensive linemen. If you can get David Stone, Williams Nwaneri, Nigel Smith, there's 3 right there. I would assume at that point they take a Jaden Jackson. That's 4. Do they pursue an Alex January or a DeAndre Cook for a scholarship offer? I don't know, but I bet Tyler Moore out at Locust Grove, Georgia gets a PWO if anything happens there. And by that time, where Dominick McKinley will be committing in January after early signing day, so at that point, you could really say, okay, Oklahoma's interior defensive line class is going to look like this, and Dominick McKinley will know what Oklahoma's defensive line class will look like. And hopefully by that time, Oklahoma's won 11 or 12 games, and they look leaps and bounds better than they did the year before. Maybe then you have a more compelling pitch on the field to go out there and flip a guy like Dominick McKinley. Now, you might say, why are you so high on him? Well, in 2022, he had 86 tackles, 18 tackles for loss, 10 sacks, 1 interception, 2 interceptions, or 2 interception, 1 interception for a touchdown, 2 interceptions. I always get messed up with that. Here's the deal. With Dominick McKinley, he's an interior defensive lineman that just straight up wrecked guys on the defensive line. And a lot of the time you have linebackers come and fill those holes and fill those gaps. Dominick McKinley wasn't allowing gaps. That's why his tackle number is so high. And then not to mention with the 18 tackles for loss and 10 sacks, that tells you he gets into the backfield and he causes a disruption. And that's what you want if you're Oklahoma. You need more defensive linemen that can do that. And Dominick McKinley at 290 pounds is a guy that can come in and start for you right away, but ultimately maybe one day end up playing the nose tackle position in case you don't get a Jaden Jackson, which I think Jaden Jackson would be an excellent nose tackle for the University of Oklahoma if they can land him. And so that's kind of where I'm thinking. That's my thoughts with Dominick McKinley. Not sure if y'all agree with me or not. But when it turns out with the defensive line class for Oklahoma, they look like they're in a good position. At this point, it's just a waiting game to see when are all these pieces going to fall. Dominick McKinley is going to be a January one. And here's the deal. I know a bunch of you guys are going to say the Bags will win. Well, guess what? Oklahoma is going to take care of these 5-star defensive linemen. That's not a question with these defensive linemen. Is, will I be taken care of at Oklahoma? They'll get taken care of. It's just a matter of, can the relationships ultimately win out? But guys, I want to hear from you. Go ahead and hit that like and hit that subscribe button and jump down in the comments below and let me know what y'all's thoughts are. Do you think Dominick McKinley, the 5-star defensive lineman out of Lafayette, Louisiana, ultimately ends up in this class for the University of Oklahoma?